Okay, the final score made it look like the Leafs crushed the Sens in their series opener, but was it real? Or was it just smoke and mirrors? Mark Masters and I are going to discuss. Then we're going to ask you to join the conversation. Mark, there's been a lot of chatter about the Leafs core four recording 9 points in game one, but 7 of those 9 points came on the power play. The core four only had 2 points at 5-on-5, and both those points came on the same goal when Matthews assisted on Marner's goal. Did the Leafs really dominate, or did they just capitalize?
I mean, if in what matters most they dominated, which is the scoreboard, I don't think you can be picky this time of year because the core four hasn't scored much on the power play in this era in the playoffs. So that was an important development. You know, they tripled their power play goal total from last year's series against Boston in 7 games last year in 1 game this year. So that's important. That's where you want your star players to come through. They have more ice, they have more time and space, and they should deliver, and they should make Ottawa pay for undisciplined play. So, like, no one's planning the parade down here, but it's hard not to be encouraged with the way they started this series. They had been 2-7 in game one in this era, in this core era, with Matthews and Marner. So they haven't always started a series well. They certainly haven't had much success on the power play at times. So a lot to like in that first game, and it was dominant on the scoreboard, and that's what matters at this time of year. So many times when the Leafs have lost a series, we've heard about how they controlled play and they outshot the opposition, and the other team's goalie was really good, and they just could not get a bounce. Well, you know what? That's a losing kind of talk. That's a losing mentality. So the Senators could talk all they want about how 5-on-5, the numbers look good, and that is true, but ultimately what matters is the Leafs took advantage of what they got and they dominated on the scoreboard.
All right, the Leafs power play. Let's talk about that. As you said, came under much scrutiny because they spent way too much time looking for that perfect shot and never shooting. But in the opener, they scored their 3 power play goals 3, 8, and 9 seconds after a faceoff. Has this been a slow shift in mentality, Mark, or something they've been working on?
Well, you know, I was asking the players and Coach Craig Berube about the quick strikes today, and they said that part of it is that was the game plan. They felt like that was going to be there, and credit to them for just jumping on it, right? Like 5-on-3 power play, we've seen it so many times. Teams get picky, but William Nylander gets the puck off the draw, and he just takes a no-look shot beats Linus Ullmark, blows a kiss to the crowd. Beautiful stuff there. You know what? You know what's really been a great development for the Leafs? Because remember, it was a disaster to start the season under new assistant coach Mark Savard. We were wondering, what is going on with this power play? They go to the 5-forward look around November. Matthews, missed some time with an injury, but they really liked it after, there was some concern. Are you going to give up anything on the counterattack? But Mitch Marner has been excellent as the quarterback on that unit, getting shots through, putting the puck right where either Matthew Nyes or John Tavares can tip it or get into good position. He's been excellent at the top because that's not easy to just jump in there. He's used to be on the flanks, but he sees the ice well. He doesn't have a howitzer of a shot, of course, but he's really good at sifting it through. So this power play, which did not produce much in April, I don't think they were terrible, but they weren't seeing the puck go in the net. It had kind of dried up there. To get off to a start like that in game one, huge development for them, and we'll see if they can keep it going in this series.
All right, Mark, back to what the Sens gave them versus what the Leafs took. The Sens' lack of discipline killed them. 5 of the 6 Ottawa penalties came in the offensive zone. Crazy. Travis Green hated that. He admits they've got to have more discipline, but is he already starting to work the refs before game 2?
Yes, he is. I mean, he just came out and said the Leafs, they sold some of those calls. It's tough for the referee. I've been covering the Leafs a long time. Embellishers, they've been called a lot of things, Gino, especially in the playoffs, but embellishers is not one of them, right? I mean, Michael Bunting, of course. But for the most part, we haven't heard a lot of, the other team talking about the Leafs taking dives. And I asked Austin Matthews today, did they do anything well to draw penalties? And he kind of smiled and said, we didn't do anything special. We just played the game, moving our feet, holding onto pucks. So the Leafs picked up on what Travis Green was saying there. They felt like they were disciplined, and Matthew Nye said they kept their composure in the scrums. But yeah, Travis Green trying to take the focus off, of course, what was a tough loss in game one, put it on the officiating, of course, and see maybe plant a seed for the next game. Maybe they'll get more calls next game, and the Leafs are saying that too. They expect it's not going to be like this the whole series. There was the Senators that led the NHL in penalties drawn during the year. before game one, that was the big talking point, around the Leafs is how are they going to deal with that? It was the opposite in game one. So the Leafs aren't counting on that. They're talking a lot about how they got to keep their composure. It's really funny, actually, to hear Craig Berube, who pointed out today he did not do a great job keeping his composure at times when he was a player, and he is just stressing discipline, discipline, discipline. It's really and he brought that up, so credit to him, but it is funny to hear him being like, everyone's got to just keep calm, and not, get drawn into Ridley Gregg stuff and anything that Brady Tkachuk may do. But, the Leafs aren't expecting to get 6 power plays every game in this series.
Yeah, the penalty calls are going to balance themselves out. Now, listen, I was looking at the ice time. Matthew Knies led all the Leafs in ice time with 22-29. That's more than Marner's 21. And Mark, almost 4 minutes more than Austin Matthews. On top of that, Knies actually scored a goal as well. What could this mean in terms of opening up more ice for Austin Matthews?
Well, I mean, we've seen it all year, right? Matthew Knies has, really grown and been a force on that top line, fit in so well with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner all season. 29 goals. He's been excellent in the net front on the power play as part of the 5-forward look. He's just grown. Now, Craig Berube said today, he gave, Knies too much ice time, but I can understand why he wants to put him out there. He plays both special teams. He's on the penalty kill as well, and he's just such a physical force. He just dominates in front of the net. He said today he wants to go out there and dominate, and he liked how he played in game one. He also had a big shot block, a painful-looking shot block. I think a lot of Leafs fans and maybe the Leafs themselves were holding their breath after he went to the bench in pain right before he actually scored, and he said it felt really rewarding to get that goal after that big shot block, but he also said that's what it takes this time of year. Matthew Knies is a guy who's doing it all. I'm not sure he's going to play that much in every game in this series, but it's hard to question that the ice time he is getting. He deserves it, Gino.
He's a physical guy, hugely physical game overall. The Sens out hit the Leafs 56-30 though. Stützle led both teams with 9. Tkachuk had 7. Do you think we see that continue, or does Stützle and Tkachuk and their teammates who are making their playoff debuts settle in now that they've got their first taste of playoff hockey?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of nerves at play for the Senators, right? And it's kind of refreshing for the Leafs that their opponent was actually, for the first time, really not a veteran, experienced team. So many guys making their playoff debut for the Senators. It was probably understandable that there were going to be some nerves. I don't think Tim Stützle is going to put up those hit numbers every game. It's probably not a good thing. You want him to have the puck on his stick. If he's putting up those hit totals every game, it's probably not a great thing for the Ottawa Senators. So if you're a Senators fan and you're the Senators, you're hoping you'll learn from this. It was a tough result for sure, and they've got to kind of channel the energy and the excitement and the aggression in a better way. I think this is going to be a physical series, a really physical series. That's part of Ottawa's MO. The Leafs have been much more physical, and they're trying to do that this year under Craig Berube. So the physicality is going to continue. I think that the hit totals, though, might even out and be more kind of with the players that you would think that they would be with.
Listen, we can debate who was better 5-on-5, but there is no debate what happened in net. Stolarz outplayed Ullmark in his first career playoff start. Ullmark gave up 6 on 24, but Mark, he didn't get pulled, which I think was a little bit surprising. Then after the game, he said he had the mind of a goldfish. He's going to have no problem forgetting about it. Yeah, it's just one game, but how do you see the goaltending battle playing itself out?
It's a really good question because if it plays out like it did last night, it's going to be a very short series. Anthony Stolarz is that's his 9th straight win last night. The question was, how is he going to respond to his first ever Stanley Cup playoff start? He has the one goal going against him in the first period that kind of bounces over his stick. You saw him throw his head back. That's a bad bounce. It's a tough one. Doesn't let it get to him. I thought his best sequence of the whole game was early in the second period. The breakaway stop on Brady Tkachuk. Shane Pinto had a clean look. The Sens had a chance on the power play that they got in that sequence of the game, and he was equal to the task. He said he had goosebumps coming out for his first career Stanley Cup playoff start, but no nerves really. And I didn't see any nerves. I thought he was great. If he plays like that, the Leafs are going to be very happy, and then they're going to be very hard to beat in this series. On the Ullmark side, if you're the Sens, you're hoping that was his one bad game in the series, and it was just an off night for the whole team, because they need him to be a Vezina Trophy winner in that. That's been the secret for all these teams that beat the Leafs in the playoffs, is they have strong goaltending. You have to have it. The Leafs stars, they're just too good. And they were getting good chances. Like I'm not saying that these goals are terrible that are going in on Ullmark. Certainly the Morgan Rielly shot that goes off Highmore and in, you'd like, it's a deflection, but you just need saves. You need him to stop Marner on a breakaway. It's Mitch Marner, but, he's Linus Ullmark. He's allowed to stop that. Oliver Ekman-Larsson walking down Main Street. These are quality chances, but you're hoping if you're the Sens, like Ullmark's going to make those momentum-changing saves, and it was Stolarz who did it. Stolarz, by the way, got the day off today for practice, not on the ice, and I'll be fascinated. That will be a big kind of storyline, is how is he going to deal with the workload? He hasn't started 3 straight games since November. Of course, he had the knee injury. He's never played as much as he did this season. These games are physical. They're intense. Ridley Gregg crashed into Stolarz. Brady Tkachuk is going to be in his face. It's going to take a lot out of him. He's never dealt with that. How is he going to respond? There's going to be 4 games in 7 nights to start this series. Does Stolarz play like we saw in Game 1 the whole series? And like we've seen down the stretch, does he fade a little bit? That will be a big question, and the Sens are going to have to try and really make him work, make life as hard as possible on him, knowing that Anthony Stolarz has never done this before in the playoffs.
All right, you've heard what we think. Mark says it was pretty even 5-on-5. I think the Sens may have had the edge at even strength, but I think we both agree if you take penalties against the Leafs, you're going to pay a serious price. Time now for you to join the conversation. You've heard what Mark and I think. What do you think?